Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to SuperCoach Edge, and it is, of course, another update when it comes to BBL SuperCoach, and we are coming out of round 2. As I am recording this, we're actually, I think, a couple of games into round 3. Now, I must apologise because I have been keen to, as I was in previous seasons, put up a round-by-round review coming out of the round that's just happened. But as we know, with the nature of SuperCoach, the round ticks over, day after day. We have matches, multiple matches at certain times across, a number of days consecutive. And with Christmas period, it's been absolutely hectic, as it is with most people, but more so for myself because I have virtually 4 Christmas lunches that I have to attend, both on my side of the family and my wife's. So it is a very, very crazy time. So unfortunately, yes, I must apologize that I haven't been as frequent with the uploads, but this time of year, it is absolutely crazy. But with that, let's have a look at how I performed coming out of round 2. And it was an absolute doozy because I am now ranked 347th overall. I jumped up 1,473 spots in total, and I did that off the back of a round 2 score of 1,156, which ranked in the top 1%. And as I said, I am now ranked 347th. So I am tracking quite well. Won 6 out of my 6 leagues. And I might roll through in terms of the ranking for those people that are a part of our Open League, which, as you can see here, if you're tuning into YouTube, below here you can see the code is 977381. So if you aren't a part of our Open League, make sure to jump in. It is free to do so. It is 977381. We've got about 150 people joining thus far, but more the merrier. It is a bit of banter and a bit of fun at that. So looking at my team and how I performed coming out of round 2, let me just bring it up on screen here because this is the, the scores that we're seeing thus far across the first couple of games for round 3. So let me bring up the score of my team in round 2. So here you go. This is my team and how it looks coming out of round 2. So Seifert, he was, I just pretty much went from strength to strength, and he has been across the start of the season thus far. Scored a 53, which was good to see. Jake Doran, he was my on-field captaincy loophole, and it was loopholing my VC in Matt Short. I only scored the 115 across a double, which probably wasn't the best by his standards, but by and large, he was the more VC'd player across the round, so it is what it is. Jamie Overton, he was my follow-up option as my VC. Probably should have run with him. Would have given me an extra 49 points, but it is what it is. You can't have all the wins every single round. Tom Curran ended up scoring a 30. And it's been a relative disappointment, I must admit, to start the season. Hasn't been doing the damage with the ball, unfortunately. Probably with the bat, he's been doing okay at stages, but yeah, just been a bit of disappointment, unfortunately. But a lot of people have him, so it is what it is. Ashton Turner. So what happened here is I ended up using my boost to bring in Turner. And I was in two minds. I was like, do I keep my boost or do I bring Turner in? So I ended up bringing him in as a last-ditch effort because I virtually needed another. I thought anyway that I needed another double game round player. So I ended up scoring a 109 in the end and went up. I think it was about 10K plus or thereabouts, and was a really, really inspired move. So that helped me catapult up the ranks off the back of that one move alone. Stoinis, I ended up trying to loop him off the bench. Scored a 46, and I thought, you know what, I'll lock that in, and did so with Salzman as my non-playing player. Constas obviously being called up to the test team, and as we know, Boxing Day, he had an absolute stellar debut. So tip of the old cap to you, young fella. But he's on there on the bench for cultural reasons, I reckon, just to get around the boys. Jumping across to the bowlers here, and Berendorf, he ended up scoring a 127, was another double game player, which I'll count out how many I had in the end. But the 127, Berendorf is, he's got that death overs role. Traditionally, I have been more keen on Ty, but I just think that Ty's kind of at that stage of his career where he's on the downward trajectory, whereas Berendorf is always very consistent and has that variability in his bowling where he can snag a wicket more so than Ty's. Connolly, 146, so he's been an absolute revelation for me. Literally within the last 2 minutes of the first game of the season kicking off, I ended up bringing Connolly into my team on the bench, and this has been probably one of the best moves I've made thus far. Ended up scoring 146 and did it with a bat and ball, and also with a bat, he's been very, very reliable. So really, I couldn't have asked much more from C. Connolly. Jai Richardson, now he's been a disappointment, only scored the 7 and didn't play the second game. Being called up to the test team randomly didn't help, but yeah, I think he actually went up in price, which is quite strange. Only a 7 off a double, but we'll take it. And his score fell out of my team because he was the lowest score of the lot. Fergus O'Neill with an 80. Henry Thornton, 106. He's been a very nice starter as well in my team. Basley, 64, and Edwards, 65 in my flex. And Wildermuth just, I guess, in the wilderness at the moment, just not getting a crack in the Brisbane team, which has been an absolute failure there by selecting him, because it could have been Renshaw, and it could have been a nice cash cow in him, and he was someone that I was keen on starting. And, you know, as I said, you can't get everything right. You're always going to have 2 mistakes, and you're also going to have some wins. So the wins that I had is obviously Connolly and Turner, and, a bit of a loss there in not having Renshaw. But that is how my team stacked up in round 2. So let's quickly round out the video by having a look at how we've performed across the first 2 games of round 3. So Melbourne Stars, they just faltered again, which is unfortunate to see. Sixers came back and ended up beating them. Now, this game is going to send ripples across the SuperCoach competition because of the man named Edwards from the Sixers. So he's been a really reliable player, I will say, Jack Edwards, but he sustained a niggle in-game, and I think they're saying it could be a groin, which probably will rule him out for multiple weeks, if that is the case, depending on the severity of the strain. He bowled 1 over, and then that was it. And it was kind of a bit worrisome to see that he wasn't being given any extra overs, considering that the Stars were absolutely smashing it with the bat. And yeah, I think he ended up taking a catch, which was I guess we're thankful for, because he gave him an extra 10 points. He's finished on 12 points, but it hurts even more so because he is on the double, and it means that he's going to end with a score of 12, much like Richardson only scoring the 7 last round in a double. It really does hurt you compared to if it's a player on a single game week, but it is what it is. In terms of the trades that I did make in the end, I ended up trading, as you can see here on screen if you're watching us on YouTube. I will read them out there, of course. So Seifert, I was in 2 minds. I was like, okay, well, Seifert, even though he's on the double next week, do I try and keep him? The one way that I could have tried to have kept him was trading someone like a Constas to a Harper, which would have cost me, I think, about 10 to 15K or thereabouts. Harper, obviously on a double, but what I saw when the team sheets were released was that Harper was named 7th in the batting order. That gave me the heebie-jeebies. Outside of that, I was probably more so leaning towards starting a Philippe instead and trading in a Philippe, because he actually has been okay, hasn't been in the worst form, could be better. He's actually dropped in price, and off the back of that, I think he provided a fair bit of upside. So I ended up executing that move, Seifert to Philippe. Philippe ended up scoring a 77. Did really, really well with the bat. Unfortunately, fell short of a 50, but would have given him a bit of a bonus. But 77, which he got a catch with the gloves, and yeah, did the work with the bat. And obviously has another double game coming up as well. So that is a good sight to see. Matt Short, I wanted to keep him as well, obviously, because he is on the double next round. But at that price point of 254.6K and, wanting to get in Maxi, knowing the fact that he was back bowling at 236.3K, not only made me, 18.3K in profit, to then put on the head of another player. It also helped me because of the fact that Matt Short has a break-even of 145. Now, I'm crossing my fingers that, unfortunate for those people that still have Short, but I'm hoping in my case that he is unable to make that break-even and can drop in price a little bit. Now, he is projected to score a 98, and with that break-even of 145, his projected change would be dropping 11.5K in price, which would put him at, 243, which isn't too bad. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, if you can keep him, I would do so because I would have done so myself, but I just needed to execute that move in order to make a bit of money to then spread out across my team. So ended up doing that match short to Maxi, and Maxi scored a 60 first up. Looked sensational with a bat. Unfortunately went out with a bit of a silly shot, one of the Maxi shots, but hopefully he can consolidate with that and make a bit of money. Obviously with Maxi as well, and speaking with Shorten in terms of break-evens, Maxi's break-even is 201. Now, I mean, for me, I'm looking at Maxi in terms of being a keeper for the remainder of the year, so I don't really care about the break-even as such, but I know there are some people that actually faded him off the back of that big break-even and hoping that he has a bit of a downer, but I'm hoping in this case that he can smash it and be a little bit of a pod. In terms of vice-captain and captain, I'll get into that in a moment, but Maxi was, I think, the most vice-captain player. And then it was that man who I spoke of, Jack Edwards, which is really unfortunate for those people. But Maxi gives me a double game player extra and Dwarshuis, and I brought him into my team just purely because of the fact that I'm a fan of Dwarshuis. I think he can do some really nice things with the ball, but without Abbott in the team, it meant that there was extra reliance upon him as sort of that, marquee paceman to take nice wickets. So ended up scoring a 46, couple of wickets, I think it was in there, and looked pretty good. Hoping he can go on with that, and a break even of 59 should go up in price to potentially move him on next round. Constance ended up moving on. He's just, he's a loophole from here on out. He's not going to leave the test team, especially off the back of that performance on Boxing Day. But it's a bit of a shame because a negative 24 break even could have made us some extra cash, but 75.6, if you really want to trade him in, you can do so, and that's part of the reason why I was looking at him to go to Harper, but there are other guys around about that price point that you could look at in coming rounds. Then with my last trade, so I did activate my last boost, and it was getting out Jai Richardson, who doesn't present any real option from here on out, given he is in the test squad unless he is released. But ended up trading him to Mick Sweeney, who ended up scoring a 39. Surprisingly took a wicket with an over, and did not really much with the bat, unfortunately. I wasn't really that crush hot on Mick Sweeney. Part of the reason why I brought him in is because that negative 16 break even and the fact that he is guaranteed to go up in price. I know there are other players that did have a negative break even. Owens from the Hurricanes, he had a negative 30 odd. Another one who I was keen on initially was Meredith, who had around about a negative, I think, 15 to negative 20 break even as well. And I figured that if I was to get Meredith into my team, that yes, it may come in handy later on because I think they do have a double later in the season. But Mick Sweeney, it just gives you that double game player first up, and it gives you that real instant price injection. And I think he presented a little bit more upside in terms of that immediate cash generation compared to Meredith, who I originally had looked at for the boost trade. Now that is it. That's how my team looks at the moment. I'll roll through the rest of the performances thus far. And so, as I said, Philippi, 77. Overton is still in my team. And obviously with that double coming up for the strikers, had to do so. And a great player at that. So hopefully he can pop off. As I said, Jack Edwards, he looks like he might be out for multiple weeks at this stage. So hopefully it doesn't drop too much in price. He does have a break-even of 92, and presumably he doesn't play the next game. He'll finish on a score of 12, which means his projected price change, it could go down, who knows, 15K potentially, at a bit of a guess. Could be more, could be less, but it's a bit of an annoyance. Saving grace there is his price point isn't the worst. He's at 153.8K, so hopefully we can use him to get to someone like a Rogers from the Renegades, or if you don't have a Neil, I'd look at him. Seifert potentially, but he's at that higher price point. I'm not too keen on him. Or if you're able to bring in Sutherland on the double coming up, 100% do that. And obviously, if you don't have Matt Short, try and get him back in. And then Tom Curran ended up scoring a 39. Was pretty thankful for that because he was looking pretty shitty early on. Has that break even of 120, so will go down in price, unfortunately. But hopefully he can. I say that in anticipation that he doesn't really do anything in his next game. He does have the double this round, of course, up against the Thunder of all teams. So hopefully the Thunder can continue being a bit of a struggle town, and he can capitalise on that. Matt Stoinis, Marcus Stoinis. We've got Matt Short in my head. Marcus Stoinis, the Hulk. I only scored the 24. I think it was through a wicket primarily. Did okay with the bat. But yeah, I mean, not too crash hot. Salzman, so I've got him on field to loop on Ashton Turner, who I kept. And as I said, he's been a revelation. Scored another 57 for this round with a negative 12 break even. He should go up a fair chunk of coin. Around about maybe 16, 17K. Again, he's already gone up 19.3K in price. So he's been a really nice cash cow for me, and someone that I wasn't really anticipating on being a cash cow. I know he presented a fair bit of value, but he kind of bats around about that, fifth, sixth spot, which is kind of awkward. But, you're hoping that the Scorchers can have a bit of a breakdown in their top order, which they have had with a couple of the imports. But 57, happy with that. So I will be looping that score on field. Basley sits alongside him on the bench. And if Turner didn't go too well, I would have put Basley on field. But Basley, I don't think he's getting really any overs with the ball, unfortunately, as it stands at the moment. So he's just a pure bat at the moment. So if he was a genuine all-rounder and was bowling, batting, yes, you'd look at it. The one thing as well, I will admit, with Turner is he actually rolled the arm over, if I'm not mistaken, and ended up getting a wicket in round 2. So, yeah, he's someone that's, he's a little bit of a pocket rocket, and he's been a nice little revelation. Moving on to the bowlers, and as I said, Maxi scored a 60. He was my VC, and I think I will be locking that in. I'm hoping that he can come out against the Thunder, take a couple of wickets, and absolutely smash it with the bat. So outside of that, if I wasn't to go for Maxi as my lock-in VC, I would have to go for, considering I've only got sixes and stars in terms of players on the double. I don't have any Heat players, so I can't go down that route. And even if I wanted to, they've already played. So I probably would have to go down the route of an Overton. But I'm going to back in Maxi and hope that he can finish close to the ton mark, if not more. Berendorf, 57, break even at 52, so should hold his price and at least go up in price, I should say. Dwarshuis, 46. Hopefully he can come out and take a couple more wickets and finish towards that 100 mark. Cooper Connolly, break even of 19, scored a 37, and probably will be a nice stepping stone, considering his price point at 161.2K, to allow me to get in a higher priced Renegades or striker player coming up for their double. Henry Thornton, 24, is his projected score. Hopefully he can come out and score more than that. Break even of 12, doesn't matter. He's got the double coming up, as I said. And hopefully he can go on with his nice form. Fergus O'Neill sits on my bench as the only Renegade I have left in my team, and obviously on the bye, so hopefully he can come back in and smash it on the double next round. Wildermuth, as I said, he's kind of my looping player, primarily for the bowlers now, but not needed. And then, as I said, with my flex as my trade-in, Mick Sweeney with a 39. So that is how things sit at the moment with my team. As I said, I've used both my boosts. I did it strategically, and I'd planned it from the get-go, virtually. I was always going to use a boost coming into this round, considering there were 3 teams on a double. But, the previous round as well, just to set up for this round and for subsequent rounds to come. But that is it. I will chat about plans for trades coming up at the conclusion of round 3. And I'm hoping, as I said, to put out a video at the conclusion of round 3, which will be, Sunday 29th. As I record this, it is Friday the 27th. So I will be aiming to put that out that evening probably the next morning, I will say, after that game between the Heat and the Sixers. But I will say, it probably goes without saying that in terms of players that I will be aiming to get into my team, I'll be looking to get in Rogers back into my team, looking to get back in, obviously, Matt Short, and trying to potentially get in Sutherland. I don't think I can because he is at that massive price point. And I think between the two, actually, he's only at 191. I thought he was like 200 and something, but I might be able to squeeze it in. I might be able to, because the way things are looking at the moment, I would probably have to trade out like a Berendorf, trade out a Connolly. Connolly will give me an extra about 10K or thereabouts on top of the head of Rogers that I won't need, because Rogers is around about 150 odd, I think, from memory. 150.9, so that'll work fine. I've got 25.2K in the bank as well. Keeping in mind that I need to get Short in my team. Short's the one that I think is going to be a little bit of a worry. because it's at 254.6K. So I've only got 3 trades to work with now. So I really, really need to be strategic with my trade-ins. But as I said, Connolly straight to Rogers will work fine. Short, I'm going to probably have to do via a Maxi, but as I said, I want to keep Maxi. So, Edwards probably has to come out of the team. Can I afford to go, Edwards to Sutherland? And then maybe, I don't know how it's going to work, but Berendorf, if you can, he's not going to go up in price enough. So I don't know. We're going to have to work things out. It's really hard to try and guesstimate things now without seeing prices and whatnot. But, it might be a bit of a stretch to try and get Matt Short in my team because, he's virtually going to be about 100K more than what Jack Edwards is in price point. So we'll see how things turn out. If we don't get in both Sutherland or Matt Short, it will definitely be one of those two. And then, I think Rogers is definitely someone that I want to try and get into my team. Just a pure value type player. He's been in ripping form. And I think he has a break even in the negatives as well. Does Tom Rogers of the Renegades. -3 break even. So, an instant cash cow as well. So I think he is a definitive must have. But that's it with my team, ladies and gents. Thanks as always for tuning in. And as I always say, if you have any questions, comments, feel free to hit me up on Twitter at DamoJ88. Or you can alternatively find us at supercoach_edge on Twitter. Don't try and hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, because we don't really use that so much for messaging side of things. But Twitter or X, 100% do that. But that is it, ladies and gents. Thanks as always for tuning in. And as I said, feel free to jump into the Open League, the BBL SuperCoach Edge Open League. It is 977-381. So jump into that. We hope you've had a great Christmas. All the very best for the remainder of round 3, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.